This is Mike Baca for UCN Live, here with Tom Loeffler of K2 Promotions, promoter of Gennady Golovkin. Tom, you and Gennady were in Mexico a couple months back, receiving the WBC belt Canelo Alvarez vacated. Right. Considering you guys did not get the fight with Canelo this fall, was it a bit underwhelming receiving that belt, not having to fight and beat Canelo in the ring?
Of course, the objective was to get the Canelo fight, and to win that belt actually in the ring. You never want to have a belt awarded to you, but look, when he put himself and worked very hard to be in that mandatory position, he was in that position as a mandatory for over 2 years. So, his goal is to win all the titles, or to get all the titles, and if that's the only way he can get it, then we got the WBC belt, got the recognition as the full champion, and he's going to move on to the next. So we tried to make the fight with Billy Joe Saunders. We couldn't make that fight either, and that's really how this whole fight with Kell Brook came about, because we tried to make the fight with Billy Joe Saunders, we tried to make the fight with Eubank Jr., and Kell Brook's the one that really actually signed the contract to get in the ring.
As you mentioned, the narrative for Golovkin's career has been to get those 4 middleweight titles. Was there one aspect in negotiating with Billy Joe Saunders that totally made you move on?
Well, we didn't move on. They moved on from their side. He was reluctant. We made an offer for him to come over here to the States. They were reluctant to come to the States. So I told Frank Warren, okay, well then Gennady will come over there. It looked like there was some traction there, but that didn't go very long. It was about maybe 10 days of negotiations, and then they decided to go into a different direction. There was a lot of money on the table, and fighting in the UK. But again, just like Canelo, you can't force people to get in the ring. Billy Joe had no obligation to fight Gennady, other than proving who's the best middleweight champion in the world. That's why Gennady wants to fight all the other champions, because he wants to prove he's the best. And if there's another champion out there saying he's the champion, then the fans are going to be confused. So if he can unify all the titles, prove that he's the only middleweight champion, he's a universally recognized middleweight champion, then there's no question.
Chris Eubank Jr. was another name you mentioned. Is he still in play after September 10th?
Oh, I think so. Look, Danny Jacobs is fighting the day before Gennady, September 9th, and Gennady's fighting September 10th. Eubank's, that fight, I think, will be there. It was, we tried to make that fight. That dragged on quite a bit. Not on our side. We had all the terms agreed with Eddie pretty much within a week from the beginning of the negotiations, but it took him over a month to try to finalize a deal with Eubank. He couldn't get the final details worked out with them. So, hopefully in the future, that's a fight now. Seeing Gennady's success and his popularity of selling out the arena. Arguably against a very popular UK champion, and we're expecting it to do very well on the Sky box office, on the pay-per-view buys. Then I think that'll be kind of a signal to other UK fighters that, okay, this is a big event when you fight Gennady, and clearly the highest payday for Kell Brook, and it would have been a big payday for Eubank, and similarly a very big payday for Billy Joe Saunders. But look, you can only go with the guys that actually sign the contract, and that's again why we go back to having respect for Kell Brook and for Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Kell Brook basically took almost the same contract as Chris Eubank Jr. was offered, correct?
It was actually the same contract. We changed the names, the date, the arena, all the financial terms, everything was the same. We just changed the name, and Kell Brook signed the contract in 2 days. So that just goes to show you the people that actually want to fight, or the people that want to talk about fighting Gennady. It's gotten to the point where if you talk about fighting Gennady, your name is in the headlines. I want to fight Triple G. But then going from getting your name in the headlines to actually signing a contract, that's a big step, and a lot of fighters don't like to take that step.
Kell Brook will be moving up 2 weight classes for this fight. It's a huge challenge. Is this going to be Gennady's toughest fight in your opinion, and why? if so?
It's hard to say until they actually get in the ring. I could see Kell bringing the speed from the welterweight division with him. He doesn't know how to lose. He's clearly a world, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, just like Gennady is, and certainly one of the best UK champions. So the difference with Gennady is that he doesn't care where he fights. He's actually going over to the UK, which I think evens out a lot of the the discussion of welterweight moving up to a middleweight. And you see with the 30-day weigh-in, Kell Brook actually weighed in significantly more, 11 pounds more than Gennady, not just a pound or two more. I mean, significantly more, and he was in shape. You can see he wasn't like he had a huge stomach or hadn't been training. You can tell that he was already in shape, and he was a solid 176 pounds. So I think by the time you get in the ring, you'll see a great matchup. Whether it's going to be the toughest fight, that we can only see once the fighters get in the ring. Sometimes we thought it would be a very difficult fight, and Gennady was able to stop somebody early. Or sometimes we thought, okay, this fight, Gennady's just at a higher class, and then it goes, a lot of rounds. So it's hard to actually predict that. Although I do have to say that I think Gennady is the best fighter right now as far as cutting off the ring, and regardless of which style he's in against. So that makes it always an exciting fight.
Have you been watching the Olympics at all?
I've been looking for the boxing coverage, and for the
Kind
life of me, I can't find it.
It's on NBCOlympics.com, and the stream is
online.
actually really good. It's a really good HD stream, but it's not making American television, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was looking on TV. I was flipping through the channels, and I would see water polo, I would see handball, I'd see, Greco-Roman wrestling, but I'll have to check it out online. But I've been following the headlines of who's been doing well and things like that. So it's always great to see the sport of boxing getting publicity.
Well, the reason why I ask is I'm a big Usain Bolt fan, and I love the 100-meter dash.
Me too.
And I kind of want to relate that to a question.
Okay.
If Danny Jacobs and Billy Joe Saunders and Chris Eubank Jr. and Canelo Alvarez all lined up for a race, and Gennady was chasing them, who would win in a race with Gennady chasing them?
That's funny. I don't know. It's we never try to disparage any of the opponents. It's if fighters have other priorities, that they would rather fight other people instead of Gennady, instead of testing themselves against the best middleweight. What can you do? It's been pretty documented, not only starting with those names, but from Felix Sturm to we tried to make a fight with Sergio Martinez, who we have a lot of respect for, and who was the best champion at that time in the middleweight division, and then Peter Quillen. And just we couldn't really make any of those fights at the time who were considered the best for Gennady to prove that he's the best. So all we can do is just praise the people that get in the ring with him. The good thing is that Gennady just keeps fighting, whether the fighters get in the ring or not. He keeps fighting, and that's what the fans appreciate. Either you're talking about his last knockout, or we're announcing the next fight. And because of his activity, he's the most active world champion in the sport of boxing today, and that's, I think the fans not only appreciate his activity, but the fact that they know he'll fight anybody, and the fact that he's got 22 knockouts in a row, so they know it's going to be an exciting fight.
It leaves you wanting more, as I like to say.
Oh yeah, every time when we do the promotions, when we did the fight at Madison Square Garden or at the Forum, in the fans are asking me like, when are you going to bring him back, or this is the first time we've seen a live boxing match. So that's really the goal, is to bring new fans to the sport of boxing and to expand not only Gennady's brand, but the more that we can build up the interest in the sport, I think it's a benefit for everyone in boxing.
So you guys have commended Kell Brook for moving up 2 weight classes and taking on that challenge. My question for you is, I'm interested to know what your reaction would be if a light heavyweight champion asked Gennady to do the same thing.
Well, I think it depends on the circumstance. Kell Brook was having a difficult time getting somebody to fight him at welterweight. He was calling out the biggest names. My understanding, they were trying to make the Amir Khan fight. They were trying to make the Vargas fight. They were getting frustrated. And you look at the event. You look at how they realized, Eddie Hearn realized, if Kell Brook moved up, and Gennady Golovkin came over to London. I mean, look at the event. It's sold out in one day. Yeah. It's going to be on Sky pay-per-view. It's going to be on HBO. It's going to be in over 100 countries worldwide. So, I mean, that's what makes it the biggest event that there is. If there's an opportunity, you know, I think the difference in this particular situation is that Kell is a huge welterweight that I don't know how he physically makes 147 pounds when Gennady clearly doesn't have any problem making 160 pounds. He comes in at 159 pounds regularly. So it just depends on the situation. If there's a big fight at 168 pounds, we would take that fight. If there's a fight at 175, you know, we'd have to look at it. But you know, clearly, if there's a middleweight champion willing to get in the ring with Gennady, that's his priority, is to unify all the middleweight titles. And with what Gennady brings to the promotion going over to the UK, I think that's really the reason why Kell Brook agreed to move up. He didn't agree to move up and then it's just a regular fight, and you know, it might sell 5,000 tickets and it would be on, you know, might generate some TV revenue. I mean, this is truly the most talked about international fight of the year, and it's probably going to generate one of the biggest numbers financially for the year.
All right, my last question for you, just a quick update on Klitschko Fury 2.
You know, the Klitschko management group, Bern Bonte, is in continuing discussions with Mick Hennessy, with the Fury team. We want to make the fight as soon as possible. The date that's been slated is October 29th, but there's been no official announcement. There's been nothing announced as far as the arena. The contracts haven't been signed for that date, but as soon as they have something that's finalized, I'm sure you'll see an official announcement from both sides.
Very well. Well, you can catch Gennady Triple G Golovkin versus Kell Brook on September 10th, regular HBO, and it'll be a matinee broadcast. For Tom Loeffler, my name is Mike Baca. This is UCN Live.